Hi guys, in this video I'm going to review with you the Tang to Ming dynasties in China. And basically I just want you to take the notes and get down what I'm saying. If I'm going too fast at any time, just pause the video or rewind. You can do that since it is a video. Isn't that awesome? Love it. Anyway, okay, so we're going to start out with the Tang dynasty. They're around in 618 CE, and they are known as the pinnacle of cultural attainment. This basically just means that they had a lot of artists and writers and creative type people at that time. One of the biggest cities and most important cities was Chang'an, and it was the cultural capital of East Asia. It was visited by merchants, pilgrims, missionaries, and students from all over. Also, during this time, many religions were practiced, but Buddhism was the most popular. The other thing that was going on at this time was called the Kowtow. Let's see, yeah, there it is. Also during the Tang dynasty, the tributary relationship between the Chinese and the nomads was set up. And basically what that was is that foreign people were granted permission to trade with China on the condition that they demonstrated subservience or respect towards the Chinese emperor by bearing tribute. So there were two parts of it. Tribute was usually some sort of native product that was given as payment. And the second part was what you see here. It's called the kowtow, and this is how you spell it right here. The kowtow was basically bowing with your head to the floor several times to show respect. It was also called bowing prostrate. Prostrate is Prostrate. This was basically an extension of Confucianism and showing respect through the relationship and the social order. This image shows a Chinese general during the Tang Dynasty meeting with the Uyghur nomads on the frontier of China. And you can see here the Uyghur nomads are all kowtowing in front of the general, and they are getting ready to pay him tribute. So one word that you're going to need to know for the AP exam is continuity. Continuity basically means things that stayed the same. So if you were asked the question, according to the image, what is one continuity in Chinese history in relation to the nomads? Would you answer that question? Look at this picture and think about what we just talked about in regards to kowtow. Pause the video and think about it for a minute. Now, moving on, one thing, if I asked you that question, you need to reference the picture. So in your image, you would definitely talk about the picture. You could say that one continuity was the fact that the Chinese required the tributary system, where the natives, in order to trade with them, had to pay tribute and also had to show respect through kowtowing. That could be one continuity. Another continuity could talk about the nomadic people relying on the Chinese and therefore needing them for goods and products that they couldn't make on the steppe. Therefore, they needed to have this tributary relationship in order to be able to rely on the Chinese fully. You could also say that it shows Confucian ideals, such as respect and relationships, and how the nomad is bowing before the general. Now, if I were to ask you to explain one change in relation to this picture, after this picture, it would happen in 1100 CE. So let's say I say, identify and explain a change after 1100 CE. What could you say about that? Well, you'd first have to know the date 1100 CE and what changes after that. The answer to this is that the Yan dynasty is created by the Mongols. So this brings about a change between the relationship of the nomads and the Chinese, because now the nomads are in charge. And so you could go on to explain that this is the first time that foreigners have governed China, and the first time that non-Chinese are really in charge, and therefore the tributary system is no longer needed. Those are some changes in continuity seen in this image. Make sure and just summarize that a little bit in your notes. And if you don't understand that, make sure and come to tutorials and talk to me about it, because it's pretty important that you understand the change in continuity and how it was seen in this picture. Okay, moving on to the Song dynasty. The Song dynasty is created in 960 CE to 1279 CE. At this time, tea was really important. It was important during the Tang dynasty too, but the Song government establishes a monopoly on it, which means they basically control all of the production. They use the money to ensure a supply of horses for the military, and tea also becomes very popular in Japan, and therefore China is able to trade that with them. During the Song dynasty, gunpowder is also invented, which is very important. It eventually spreads to Europe. Painting and artistic calligraphy also excels during this time. Here are some examples of that, as well as poetry. And porcelain is very important. You can see some examples of that here. Another invention that's important is the movable type. This is similar to the printing press, but it's not quite the printing press yet. This is basically little blocks of wood, as you can see here, that can be moved around, and then they press ink onto it to print on the paper. So this is much easier than changing all of the letters at one time, because you can just change a simple block. It's also easier than just copying something. So movable type is very important. One of the reasons that it's so important is it makes books cheaper to print. Therefore, literacy starts to spread. Also during the Song dynasty, Neo-Confucianism happens. You may have read about this in your book, or at least you should have. But basically, it's kind of the rebirth of Confucianism. Status of merchants fall during this time because of Confucianism coming back. Tradition becomes more important. There's more acceptance of authority and order. It's more about the group over the individual, and selflessness over being selfish. During the Song dynasty, the women also get their feet bound. This is a really interesting topic because it's very painful, and it really holds a woman down, as you can see by her foot here in the picture. So what happens is richer families wanted their wives and daughters to stay at home. Their main job was to prepare meals, sew, care for silkworms, made silk. They were usually married between 16 and 20. Then men would take on the other responsibilities. So foot binding became this process. The reason behind it was to make women more like confined to the home. You can see that what it does to the foot is it actually breaks the bones and makes the feet very small. You can see in this picture how small her foot was. It was considered very beautiful to have smaller feet, but what it also did is it kept women from being able to walk very fast or for very long. So it pretty much tied them to the house and minimized the opportunities that they had outside of the house. If done right, the foot healed 2 years after the binding cycle stopped, and women could then walk short distances without pain. But it took quite a while for that to happen. And if all did not go well, you constantly had pain with walking. So this was considered very inhumane. When the Mongols came in during the Yuan dynasty, they stopped this process. They were no longer allowed to bind feet. And if you remember in Mulan, the grandma holds the cane and walks with a cane. It's because her feet were bound. So now we have the Yuan dynasty that comes in 1279 CE. This is the first time that there were ever non-Chinese Chinese rulers. And we know the great Kublai Khan was the ruler at this time. He unified North and South China. He conquered and ruled over Korea, and he built lots of infrastructure for the Chinese people. We also know that he discriminated against the Chinese people and that they were really kind of second-class citizens. They didn't have any power in the government anymore. After the Yuan dynasty declined when Kublai Khan died, the Ming dynasty was founded in 1368 by a peasant leader who defeated the Mongols. It continued to 1644. Here are some of the achievements of the Ming. Restored the civil service system that had been taken away by the Mongols and gave way to more Confucian ideals. They also improved farming methods. They wrote classic literature. They wrote classic literature, and they also started to export porcelain abroad. During the Ming Dynasty, there was also this guy right here that made some awesome voyages. This is really the first time that the Chinese did a lot of exploration. And basically, the Ming ruler sent fleets. I don't know why it does that. Sent fleets to distant waters to show the glory of their government, also to promote trade. And the most important of these voyages was this guy right here. Tang He, I think. I'll have to ask some of my Chinese students exactly how to pronounce that. Zhang He, maybe? Anyway, you can correct me later. Just get it down in your notes. And here's the voyages that he took. And that concludes the notes that you need to take. Make sure you study them good and hard so you're ready for that LEQ tomorrow. All right, talk to you later.